Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Shayna Weiss. I am the Senior Associate Director here at the Schusterman Center for Israel Studies. I'm really excited for today's talk, which I will introduce in a second. Before we begin, just housekeeping for everyone here in person. I'll ask you to remain quiet during the session and wait to get food or drink once we've started. Thank you so much. So I'm really excited today to have Alexandra Mandelbaum Kupeev here in conversation with us. She's going to talk about the Na-Nach movement and within Breslov Hasidism, and how its messianism relates to the state of Israel. So Alexandra is a Stroock Postdoctoral Fellow at the Center for Jewish Studies at Harvard University. She received her PhD from Ben-Gurion University of the Negev, where she wrote her dissertation on the development of Breslov Hasidism in the 19th century. She is currently researching the revival and transformation of Breslov Hasidism in 20th and 21st century Israeli culture. And she's interested in how issues of dissemination, esotericism, and messianism. She also writes on Jewish identity and post-Soviet immigrants to Israel. She teaches broadly. She teaches classes on Kabbalah, on Jewish mysticism, on Hasidic thought, both in academic institutions, but also the wider public framework. And I'll say, if you've spent any time in Israel at all, you definitely recognize sort of followers of this movement. I'll wait to until we hear more about them. But I'm really, really excited for today's talk. And with that, I pass it over. So please, thank you.
Thank you, Shana. Thank you so much for having me here. This is my first time at Brandeis, so I'm really happy to talk here and also with the people in the house. And thank you, Freddie and Wendy, for organizing this. I want to start with a moment that at the time felt almost impossible. It's the late 80s on mainstream Israeli television, and we see the popular singer Margalit Zanani interviewing an elderly rabbi. Let's see, can I open the, Freddie, could you put the slides? Yeah. Margalit Zanani interviewing an elderly man, Rabbi Yisroel Dov Odesser, surrounded by his dancing followers. We'll see it in a minute. This one? This one, yeah. She's preparing the interview. I welcome.
תנו לי זמן, שילמוד איזה עניין של רב נחמן, הוא מתבטא לגמרי.
מה התפקיד של סבא ישראל אודסר? What's the goal, what's the role of Saba, of grandfather Israel Odesser? He has a role in the coming of the Messiah. Freddie, could you just stop for a minute? Margaret is asking the follower of the Saba, we'll see him in a minute, who were you before you met the Saba, the grandfather? He will be the main figure of that I'm going to talk about in this short lecture. So she's asking the follower of the Saba, who were you before you met him? And he says, I was nobody. I was just a normal person going in Derech Hayam in Haifa, wandering in the middle of Haifa and living a normal and regular life. By that, he means not special, because afterwards he will say like an animal. Okay, just something. We can hear it now in Hebrew, and then we'll skip to the Saba a little bit.
שכתוב בה נח, נחמן מאומן. בפשיטות ובתמימות האמנתי, וראיתי המון ניסים, ברוך השם, קמתי בית, יש דלת גדול מגרושתי, והתחתנתי, אחרי תשובה, לפני שנתיים, נולדתי בן ובת, ברוך השם.
נחמן מאומן.
So now she's going to move the camera to this old person sitting there. You can see him. This is secret from in all the world. So thank you so much. Thank you, Freddie. So later, his Hasid is saying that the way he met Na-Nach or Breslov Hasidic movement was when this person, or so, I think he mentioned the Saba himself, that actually brought him a note, that inside the note there was a phrase that goes in Hebrew like this, Na-Nach, Nachma, Nachman, Meuman. If it doesn't make sense, it's because in Hebrew it also, it doesn't make sense. This is like the name of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, the founder of the Breslov Hasidut, but divided in a special way that you can hear and learn about only in this specific stream of Na-Nach movement. They divide his name, Na-Nach, Nachman, Nachman, and then they add Me-Uman from Uman. Uman is the Ukrainian place in where he is buried. Okay, so this clip leaves us, so this clip leaves us a bit puzzled. Why was the Israeli mainstream so fascinating by this rabbi? What is the story of this sacred note he held? And why did this group known as the Na-Nach suddenly find themselves at the heart of Israeli mainstream? But there is a second kind of amazement I want to share with you. It doesn't come from television studio, but from the halls of the university. And when I tell my colleagues that I've moved from studying the 19th century Hasidism into researching this contemporary Na-Nach, very small stream in Breslov Hasidut, so the reaction I usually get from my colleagues is often one of sheer amazement. Them, those crazy people, the people dancing on the street, spraying graffiti, distributing pamphlets and stickers, what there is to talk about them. And this gap, I feel that this is a gap I want to explore today, because this is actually the entry of a marginal group into the public sphere, and the academic tendency to dismiss them as marginal. And I think that by looking at their own texts, we'll see that this marginality, it's not only a talk about them from academic point of view of Jewish history, or even inner Hasidic talk. I think that this is also their theological position, deeply tied to their version of Messianism, their variation of Messianism. So to understand this group, we need to look at the broader map of Hasidism. Historically, Breslov was tiny, very small Hasidut in the 19th century. In the beginning of it, maybe the followers of Rabbi Nachman likely numbered no more than 1,000 people. The 20th century changed everything. The movement exploded in size and spread across the globe, even here to, of course, to America, to Borough Park, and all kinds of different places. Yet the Na-Nach stream remains unique and complex. Unlike most Hasidic groups, they don't live in one neighborhood and they don't follow a single living rabbi. Instead, what binds them together and sets them apart is profound, almost mystical connection to the Saba that we saw before, the grandfather. The stream developed in the second half of the 20th century around the figure of Yisroel Dov Odesser that lived more than 100 years. He was known as the Saba, an elderly rabbi, and also known by the name the note holder, Baal Apitke, Baal Apetek. To the narrative, when he was in his 20s and lived in Tiberias, shortly after becoming connected to his teacher, to Breslov Rabbi Yisroel Heilper in Kardoner, it's a different Israel, Odesser received or found a note, a petek, addressed to him from none other than Rabbi Nachman of Breslov himself, who was no longer alive for over 100 years, right? So you can see here the note. It's a combination of Hebrew and Yiddish. And one of the interesting things we can see, we'll go through it just for like a few seconds. We can see that it's addressed specifically to him, not by his name. It was very difficult for me to descend to you, my dear students, Talmidi Hayakar. And later on in his life, Odesser talked a lot about this Talmidi Hayakar. He felt that this is actually Rabbi Nachman talking directly to him. And if you ask me how did he know, what was his, what is the idea behind it, you can see in the end, Vesiman Yudzayin Betamuz Yomru She'encha Mit'aneh. And the sign on the 17th on Tammuz was supposed to pass. Thank you. They will say you are not fasting. So we see that we know, according to the Saba, that he had some personal troubles and he was struggling and he ate in the middle instead of fasting in Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. And he says that he was the only one who knew it. Therefore, no chance somebody could write it down except something not natural, Rabbi Nachman, that was already dead for more than 100 years, talking to him. But you can also see all kinds of strange things like this name, Patzpatzia, and you can see something connected to the Messiah, to the redemption. My fire will burn until the Messiah comes. This is a phrase that was already known in Breslov. And you see this phrase appears first here, Na-Nach Meuman. So this was the secret of the note, and Saba Israel was holding this note for most of his years and until it actually disappeared, but this is for a different lecture. So for those of you who are hearing this story for the first time, you may wonder how the note actually reached the Saba, whether the story perceived as credible. However, I would like to focus on something else, the self-consciousness of the Saba, Odesser, during those years, during his youth in Tiberias. In those years, as later described in his memories, Israel Ber suffered intense criticism and scorn from the Hasidic and Ashkenazi community in Tiberias. Many texts printed dozens of times by Saba's followers, this is important, the reprinting of these stories over and over again, highlight how he lived on the margins of the Jewish society. I lived and saw such wonders. This is the Suffer. Yeah. I lived and saw such wonders. Yeah, you can see it on the second line. Who can imagine, who can tell? In all of Safat and in all of the world, they were against Breslov. But now we see that the Holy One, blessed be He, performed miracles and wonders that the whole world speaks of our Rebbe. Only our Rebbe, our Rebbe, our Rebbe. Thank God that we merited what we merited to the time of redemption. The subject of poverty in general is something I want to address here because the thing with poverty is something which was very painful for Odesser, and until now, when you talk with his kids, his grandchildren, his family really suffered. So it's not just a narrative, okay? He has one of his kids also suffered from hunger. He didn't get the right treatment, and unfortunately, he died. So when he's talking about the narrative, and when I'm talking about the narrative of being in the margins, in something that combines like a realistic situation, that were not connected only to Odesser, but rather like to a broader situation of Breslov being a Breslov Hasid in Tzfat, in Tiberias Tzfat, in this area these days, that days. For example, through this book of memoir, Chaye Moharan, you can see plenty of time. I didn't translate it. I just want you to, I'll describe it. You can see plenty of time, countless oral conversations, and in many interviews that you can see on YouTube, Odesser describes the heavy poverty that was at his home. If you just do search like with the word lechem, bread, very basic word, and you can on his teachings you can see a lot of things, a lot of times when he tells over and over the fact that he didn't have even a piece of bread and water to drink and something normal, and that he was deeply ashamed. He also tells many times how his family suffered from an unfair distribution from the city's charity fund. In these moments, it seems as if Odesser was in a way reenacting the atmosphere of dispute that surrounded Rabbi Nachman of Breslov himself. This echoes what Rabbi Nachman of Breslov himself said to his followers in the end of the 18th century. I brought to you one gift from the land of Israel, hamachloket, the dispute. Odesser held the common conception among Breslov Hasidim that Rabbi Nachman of Breslov was the central and exclusive tzaddik. This position of Breslov Hasidim attracted the fire of criticism in the 19th century from both Jewish maskilim and Hasidim. Similarly, young Odesser also described great suffering following his identification as Breslov Hasid. In many recordings, the Saba emphasized the importance of simple Hasidic devotion and the complete avoidance of social honor or prestige. His criticism of those who chase after falsehood or honor is not directed at the outside world, but rather towards the Hasidic society and rabbis themselves. He shapes his persona as a simple Hasid who is willing to sacrifice his dignity and is compelled almost involuntarily to stand firm against haters and detractors. Similarly, the founder of Breslov Hasidism, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, used to engage, according to his book Chaye Moharan, The Life of Our Rabbi, in what is called mochin dekatnut, smallness of the mind, which involve acts of foolishness and even madness for spiritual reasons. Such states, as well as many teachings that emphasize the greatness of the simple person, indicate a broad trend of glorifying the parts were seemingly perceived as marginal in culture. This position follows early Kabbalistic concepts and is even very similar to Lurianic or Sabbatian notions regarding the virtue of the shells or of the klipot. We can argue about it and compare, but this is just an interesting direction to think. So there is a broader Kabbalistic context to the idea of the simple redemption through the simple person. And of course, it's not only a Jewish idea. And the spiritual work that must be done through them, through the klipot. Whoever interested in the book of Gershom Shalom, Mitzvah Ba Be'avera, a commandment performed through the transgression. Let's see, this is another bread. Oh, what I went through and what I suffered. And then I suffered many troubles, and it was not my desire to. But now I see the great value of the suffering and distress that one endures for the matter of holiness. I am very happy that I merited to draw closer to our Rebbe through suffering, through great pain and broken heart. On the contrary, it is very good to draw close to the tzaddik through suffering. I delight myself for what I suffered. I suffered great suffering, and thank God I received such an incomparable gift from it. Now I think I wish I had to suffer more and more and more. Although Odesser already found the note in 1922, he did not turn it into a center of his spiritual life, but rather kept it a secret. Why? In the first decades of his life, Israel Ber was very similar in his ways to Jerusalem Breslov Hasid. Although we said he's in the margins, I just want to show us another perspective of this, We can see him here in the middle of the shul. This is, of course, men and children gathering. I think it was, I don't exactly remember if it's of course not Shabbat, maybe it's a Melave Malka or an event. We can see that he's part of the elderly group of Hasidim. You can see it also here. He's standing here. You can see he's invited in a lot of in the memories of older Hasidim. They talk about him in great honor. So it's kind of like a dual voice that I hear in his writings, the marginality and the fact he's the only one who gets Rabbi Nachman, and this kind of pictures and other materials. What happened next? So in the 1980s, while he's already quite old, he's sitting in a retirement in Ra'anana, and his future students, part of them, but very important part, Aaron Patz and Meir Yamini, came to him. And behold, a miracle. In the last 20 years of his life, the Saba and his Hasidim traveled through Israel and began to engage intensively in hafatzah, dissemination activities. They showed particular enthusiasm for producing booklets, graffiti, and making television appearances. The focal point of their outreach was the slogan Na-Nach Me'uman that suddenly revived and was in the front. They began to spread the slogan, generating great public interest. The marginal ideas of Breslov in the new variation on Saba's Na-Nach slogan began a journey towards the cultural center. The Saba, whose statements often sound perplexing or circular, and trust me, I hear a lot of hours of the Saba talking on YouTube. So this is what I'm constantly hearing. So this is interesting to hear them because they're very, very repetitive. But still, there's always this idea of redemption that always connected to the note. Crucially, he evaded the clear definition. Is the note the Messiah? Rabbi Nachman is the Messiah, or perhaps he himself? This is one of the television show. We'll move to the note, but just notice the year gap. He is an old, respectful person, right? And his students pull him off and take him to all kinds of TV shows. Ima Chaverim. So I want to talk about the note a little bit and about the more messianic texts. And when I'm asking myself, but maybe it's a chance to stop and to say, when I look at the text as this is my field, right? My field is text. I came from this world methodologically. So I always try to ask, is it messianic? In what way is it messianic? What do we see here? Maybe it's not messianic at all, okay? So let's read this piece. Na-Nach Nachman Me'uman makes everything complete. He is new and he makes everything new. Just mentioning the name of our rabbi, Na-Nach Nachman Me'uman, is enough. It is easy thing to say. And whoever says Na-Nach, he holds on, he enters into the root of creation, into the root of entire Torah, and all the tzaddikim, they enter another world. By the way, the traditional name of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov will be Nachman, the son of Fege, Nachman ben Fege. Of course, Fege, because she was the granddaughter of the Baal Shem Tov, the first founder of the founder. It's a complicated to say, but founder of Hasidic movement. Yeah, but so usually it's Nachman ben Fege, and suddenly it's Na-Nach Nachman Me'uman. Let's see another one. I see that you liked it. You see, the Petek is the Messiah. It reminds us that there is a Redeemer, that there is a Messiah. But Jews who do not believe do not want to receive the redemption. Odesser's messianic conception and his formulation of the Breslovian vision of redemption are fundamentally connected to the motif of center margin. His personal biographical story, as I claim, is not a background material, but is itself the story of Breslovian redemption. Perhaps unintentionally, the Saba laid the foundation for a certain blending between his figure and messianic figure. The note became a foundational ethos that amplifies Rabbi Nachman's presence-absence. Once the consciousness of the note broke out, there is no former and later in Breslov. And from here, the path to Messianism is short. Maybe in the questions I can expand more about what was his thought about himself, what's his role in the Messianic era. But let's read another quote. The coming of the Messiah depends on the drawing near of the tzaddikim. And we know what this is, who the tzaddikim are. Our Rebbe and his true people, not the liars. There are many liars. This is important because it's exactly this opposite kind of thinking, right? In Breslov, yes, pay attention that he says that in Breslov, there are liars, but that is not Breslov. Breslov is only truth. Falsehood is not Breslov. Tzaddikim, this is a plural noun, and they are the tzaddikim. Our Rebbe is the essence and his holy student, Rabbi Natan, which we won't discuss here. The time of redemption is very near. The essence of the redemption is that our Rebbe will be revealed in the world. That is essence to the tidings of redemption. Without our Rebbe, there is nothing to talk about. And now the Holy One, blessed He, has performed miracles and wonders that the whole world speaks of our Rebbe. Only our Rebbe, our Rebbe, our Rebbe, our Rebbe. The opponents are embarrassed by us. They are very embarrassed. I love this piece. However, in my opinion, one of the great keys to understanding the Na-Nach messianic conception lies in a different place. It lies in the relationship between Odesser and the third president of Israel, the state of Israel, Shneor Zalman, Rubashov Zalman Shazar. This is a great picture of the two friends. Shazar and Odesser were friendly contact and even found a common spiritual language in their conversations about Breslov. Shazar was interested in Hasidism and the secret of esoteric movement like Sabbatianism. Also, of course, he was connected deeply to Chabad. For a period, Shazar even began to attend the central Breslov synagogue in Mea Shearim, called the Shul, during Rosh Hashanah. Until some people from the shul said they don't like the idea. He's sitting there and gets a very honorable place to sit, and there was a whole deal when he was very offended by them telling him not to come on Rosh Hashanah. Odesser wrote many letters to the president, both before and during his term. Odesser's letters to Shazar were collected in 1965 by Shazar himself into a book titled Ibei HaNachal. You can see this is the colorful one is a later version of it, but you can see in the right side, Medinat Israel, Lichvod Professor Gershom Shalom. This is Shazar, who printed this book anonymously, sending the book to the big Kabbalah scholar Gershom Shalom. לפי בקשת הנשיא, הריני מצרף בזאת את איבי הנחל. So the president, it's important for him to send the book to Gershom Shalom. And I want us to read the beautiful words from the letter. He says like this: my very self and flesh, my very self and flesh, my very self and flesh. This is not a mistake, this is the text. My very self and flesh, my very self and flesh. You can see the warmth of this letter. This is how he calls his friend Shazar. And in those letters, Odesser emphasized the fact that Shazar recognizes the true tzaddik. Odesser tasks Shazar with a mission to disseminate and announce the existence of the tzaddik to the world. However, the mission that Odesser imposed on Shazar does not concern only national redemption, but rather the Breslovian belief in the recognition of the true tzaddik. This is a beautiful book. I recommend you all to read it. This is a lot of beautiful letters, and all connected to the role of Shazar in this redemption. Did Shazar ultimately fail to fulfill the messianic expectation of his friend Odesser? This seems necessary context for the following quote taken from a later recording of the Saba. Saba, this is the Hebrew. The Saba tells and laughs. what the Messiah will tell to the president, prime minister, and ministers. The Holy Rebbe will say to all the Zionists, I don't need you. Sit at home. I have a minyan without you. Sit at home. I don't need you. You need me. I don't need you. There is a prime minister and there is a president. I don't need you. Go, go, go. Don't come to me. I don't need you. Go, go, go. He will chase them out of his house. He will tell them to go, go, go. He will laugh at them, at all of them. You are the president. I didn't send for you. Why did you come? Let's continue a little bit more. Get out of here. I am the Rebbe, Na-Nach Meuman. I am the Rebbe of all Israel, but not the Gentiles. I don't need you. Sorry, I had to. Note that between the years Odesser was in contact with Chazar and the 1980s, Odesser did not 1980s, Odesser did not extensively disseminate what would later be called the secret of the note. As I mentioned, he would restart his dissemination project with, or perhaps because of his new students who essentially took him out of this retirement home and also were involved in bringing him to the Israeli center. I want to suggest that Saba's years of silence regarding the note were the result of his failed attempt or half-failed attempt to reach to the center of power of the state of Israel. The Saba abandoned his attempts to disseminate the secret of the note until the 80s. It was then that the Hasidim appeared and encouraged him to reach out the Israeli center and even the mainstream. The Messianism revealed to us in the Na-Nach movement is a Messianism that undermines familiar social and even religious structures. It seeks to establish Rabbi Nachman, or even his name, or just his name, as the ultimate focus of redemption. The pretext serves simultaneously as a charm and a proof that Rabbi Nachman continues to lead his Hasidim and even the world, despite his being deceased. The blurring of boundaries, perhaps even those of logic, create a movement whose essence is the violation of the boundary between the familiar and the strange. The question arises for me, how should one speak about Messianism? Is every Messianism similar to the next? In my opinion, every time scholars, especially in Jewish history field, Jewish philosophy, every time scholars use the word messianic, or one should sharpen and clarify what type of messianism is being discussed. The question is even more urgent when describing experience of Breslov Hasidism in the 20th century. Can it be said that Breslov Hasidim are messianic because they believe that the Rebbe who passed away was in fact the Messiah? Or perhaps in some vague and concealed formulation they believe that he or his reincarnation is destined to reappear? Or perhaps we should say that they are messianic because they feel that the footsteps of redemption era are occurring in their days and nothing more, like many other movements. The theological conception of Na-Nach stream is difficult to fit into existing theological framework regarding Messianism, nationalism, and religious movement, due to the decentralized nature of the stream and its loose commitment to structured doctrine. The research process must take into account as rich variety of sources as possible. So for me, text becomes, in this project, YouTube becomes text, and oral memories are text, and his grandchildren talking about him is also a text that is valid and even more valid than the written, published book. The Torah of the Saba is spread across oral memories, pamphlets he wrote or that others wrote about him, hundreds or thousands of pamphlets issued in his name, videos of conversation he gave, wall stickers issued by his Hasidim, and many other sources. This undoubtedly poses one of the great challenges in using narrow methodology of history and Jewish thought. The figure of the Saba becomes a key figure, poor, suffering, but happy. He guides his Hasidim to complete faith in Rabbi Nachman, contributing to the shaping of the movement that intentionally challenges, from its position of deliberate marginality, both the established Breslov Center in Jerusalem and the Israeli secular spaces and even national institute such as the presidency. So these were my thoughts about it. Thank you so much for hearing.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who joined us online as well. Great. So we will take a brief break now for everyone to grab some lunch. So please do that, and then we'll reconvene here in about 5 minutes or so to have a discussion. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great. An amazing time. Perfect.